Chosen one. You are not here by accident. You didn't click this video by curiosity alone. You were drawn, summoned, led by something deeper than logic, by divine appointment, by the quiet pull of a hidden identity that has been awakening inside you for years. Chosen one. From the moment you were formed, heaven marked you, as it is written in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. That setting apart is the reason you've always felt different. The reason signs have followed you. The reason your spirit has been sensitive, your heart restless, your path uncommon. You may not have had the language for it, but the markers were always there. The dreams, the discernment, the sense that you were never meant to blend in. Those were not coincidences. They were confirmations, hidden signals placed within you, waiting for the moment of recognition. Anointed one, today you are standing at the edge of revelation. Not just about a prayer, but about who you are. A chosen lineage, a sacred calling. As 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 9 declares, you are part of a chosen generation called out of darkness into light. Prepare your heart. What you are about to hear is not information, it is activation. What Jesus truly taught was meant to awaken the kingdom within you. And once you see it, you will never be the same again. Chosen one. If you are here, it is because something ancient in you has begun to stir, a quiet memory rising like incense from the depths of your spirit. Even before you pressed play, there was a pull, a knowing that this moment was not random. I've felt that same pull in my own life, those unexplainable nudges that show up at the exact moment your soul is ready for the next unveiling. When I was younger, I didn't have the language for this kind of awakening. I just knew that certain words, certain prayers, certain moments made my spirit tremble, even when the people around me felt nothing. And maybe you've lived that way too, feeling more than you were taught to feel, sensing deeper than you were allowed to speak, carrying a spiritual sensitivity you couldn't shut off. Chosen one that wasn't imagination, that was identity, that was heaven whispering long before you knew how to listen. Something inside you has always known there was more. You felt it in the gaps. Religion couldn't fill in the silence of churches that never answered your questions, in the moments the prayer rolled off your tongue, but stirred something ancient beneath your ribs. I've been there too, repeating words that everyone around me said casually, while inside I felt a tremor I couldn't explain. It took me years to understand that those tremors were actually markers, small awakening signs of a memory my soul had not forgotten. And now, here you are feeling the same pulse in your own chest, realizing that what you thought was curiosity was actually remembrance. The Lord's Prayer is not just a prayer, chosen one, it is a mirror. And when you look into it the right way, it shows you not the version of yourself shaped by shame, fear, or tradition, but the original blueprint heaven placed in you before the world touched you. So let us begin where every awakening begins, not in doctrine, not in ritual, but in breath. Jesus didn't start with instructions, rules, or fear. He started with identity. Our Father. Two words that have echoed across centuries, but most people never truly hear them. I used to say them too quickly, as if they were just the opening line required before the real prayer started. But the first time I slowed down, the first time I really listened, something shifted. Maybe you've experienced that, when a familiar phrase suddenly feels heavier, deeper, almost alive. That's because this first line is not an introduction, it is an activation. The moment Jesus said, he shattered the illusion of separation. And when you speak that word, Chosen one, you are stepping out of the lonely version of yourself you learned to survive in and stepping back into the divine family you came from. I remember a moment in my own life when I felt painfully isolated, convinced I had to fight every battle alone. But every time I whispered our Father, something softened in me. That softening wasn't weakness. It was the dissolving of ego, the letting go of the belief that I was alone in my journey. You have felt that too, even if you didn't have words for it. That pull towards something greater than you, that sense that your soul recognizes a home you've never seen with your eyes. Our is the reminder that you belong to a lineage older than time, a spiritual bloodline carried by the ones who feel deeply, see differently, and walk through life with a quiet sense of exile. Not because you are lost, but because you are remembering a kingdom you came from. And then Jesus says, Father, but not in the limited way we imagine the word. The Aramaic abun carries layers that no single English word can hold. It means source, origin, breath, womb, life giver. The first time I learned this, it shook me. I realized that Jesus wasn't pointing us to a distant being on a throne somewhere above the clouds. He was pointing us back to the source within us, the divine breath that shaped our lungs, the intelligence that sculpted our identity long before anyone taught us who to be. Chosen one. You didn't begin in shame. You didn't start as a mistake God had to fix. You were formed with intention, crafted with purpose, designed with holiness, embedded in your very bones. I wish someone had told me that sooner. It would have saved me years of trying to earn a love I already came from. Heaven in this prayer is not a place you travel to when you die. It is a dimension inside you that has been calling out to you for years. I have felt that inner pull, the quiet garden beneath the noise, the untouched part of me that always felt pure, no matter what I went through. And you've felt it too. Every time you survived what should have broken you, every time you sensed truth, even when no one taught it to you, every time your spirit whispered that you were more than your circumstances, that was heaven remembering itself inside you. When Jesus says, Our Father who art in heaven, He is not asking you to reach for something far away. He is asking you to return to the part of yourself that has never been separated from God. Chosen one. This is where the remembering begins. Chosen one. As we move deeper, let your spirit stay open, because what comes next is not information, it is recognition. You may not realize it, but you've been carrying fragments of this truth your entire life. Moments when your breath felt sacred without knowing why. Moments when a simple whisper of God's name made something inside you vibrate. I've had those moments too, times when I inhaled and felt a presence I couldn't explain, as if something holy was hidden in the very air around me. And I didn't understand it then, but now I see it clearly. Your breath carries memory. Your breath carries origin. Your breath carries the code. That is why the next line Jesus spoke, Hallowed be, thy name, is not just a command to honor God, it is a call to awaken the divine frequency already living inside you. When I first learned that the name of God wasn't originally a spoken word, but a breath, 4 letters that form no typical human syllable, it changed the way I understood everything. I remember sitting alone in my room, letting my breath slow down, inhaling and exhaling, and realizing that with every breath I had been unknowingly speaking the name of the one who formed me. That realization brought me to tears, not out of fear, but out of the overwhelming awareness that God had been closer than my own thoughts, closer than my pulse, closer than anything I could ever reach for. And chosen one. The same is true for you. Even in your darkest seasons, even when you felt abandoned or overlooked the name of God, was rising and falling within your chest. You never stopped carrying him, and he never stopped breathing you. When Jesus said, "Hallowed be thy name," he was not telling you to treat a word with reverence. He was telling you to honor the divine breath you carry, to remember that you were sculpted from God's own exhale. You weren't shaped from dust alone, you were shaped from intention, from spirit, from vibration. That's why your soul responds when you hear truth, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. That's why certain moments make your entire body feel alive, as if something ancient has been stirred. You've been feeling the name long before you understood it, because your spirit never forgot what your mind was taught to ignore. I've walked through seasons where my prayers felt empty, where I said words but felt no presence, and I couldn't understand why. But now I know prayers without breath, without remembrance, without alignment, become empty echoes. Jesus didn't give us a prayer to recite like a script. He gave us a tuning fork, a spiritual calibration, a way to shift your inner world back into harmony with heaven. And chosen one, if your prayers have ever felt dry, dull, or disconnected, it's not because God was distant. It's because you were speaking from the throat instead of the soul. When you pause, when you breathe, when you remember that every inhale is a whisper of divine origin, something changes, something realigns, something opens. You come back into resonance with the name that has always lived inside you. I once heard an old teacher say, "The name of God is not spoken, it is lived." And I didn't understand at the time, but I do now. You, chosen one, are not meant to merely say God's name, you are meant to embody it. You are meant to walk as someone sculpted by the divine, to move with the awareness that holiness is not something you chase, but something you carry. When you allow yourself to feel that truth, when you let it sink into your bones, it changes the way you think, the way you speak, the way you move through this world. Gone are the days of shrinking yourself to fit into places you've outgrown. Gone are the days of believing you are unworthy, disconnected, or small. When you honor the name, you honor the one who breathed you into being. And when you honor the one who breathed you into being, you honor the truth of who you are. There have been moments in my life, moments I'm sure you've had too, when something inside me whispered, "You are more than this." Even when I didn't know what more meant, I could feel the truth of it. That whisper comes from the same place as the breath. It comes from the part of your spirit that remembers what the world made you forget. When Jesus taught us to honor the name, he was teaching us to reconnect with that inner remembrance, to let our human frequency align once again with the divine vibration we came from. Chosen one. This is why certain environments make you feel drained, while others make you feel alive. It's why certain people feel familiar, even if you just met them. It's why your heart recognizes truth before your mind understands it. Your spirit is still attuned to the name, and the more you remember this, the more the kingdom within you begins to rise. It's not about memorizing sacred words. It's about becoming the sacred space where those words manifest. And chosen one, you are more ready for this than you realize. Chosen one. As we move further into this revelation, let your heart stay soft, because what comes next is the moment Jesus shifts from identity to authority. When he speaks the words, "Thy kingdom come," he is not speaking about a distant paradise reserved for the afterlife. He is speaking about the hidden realm inside you, the sacred dimension that has pulsed beneath your ribs since the moment you were breathed into existence. I remember the first time I truly understood this, understood that Jesus was not asking us to wish for something far away, but to awaken something buried within. It was during a season of my life when everything felt chaotic, when the world around me looked nothing like the peace I believed God promised. I kept waiting for circumstances to change, waiting for something external to snap into place, until one day it hit me. Maybe the kingdom wasn't something coming to rescue me from the outside. Maybe it was something rising from the inside. And chosen one, that is exactly what Jesus meant. The kingdom of God is within you. You've heard that before, but hearing it and knowing it are two very different things. When Jesus invites you to say, "Thy kingdom come," he is inviting you into spiritual remembrance, into alignment with the realm you were crafted from, into the truth that heaven was woven into your nature long before the world taught you to shrink to doubt or to fear. I've had moments in my own journey where I felt like royalty, living in exile, carrying a crown I couldn't explain and a purpose I couldn't articulate. And if you've ever felt that way, if you've ever sensed a greatness you couldn't put into words, a calling that tugged at you even when you tried to ignore it, then you've already felt the kingdom stirring inside. You've already brushed against the edges of the realm Jesus was talking about. When you say, "Thy kingdom come," you are not begging God to intervene. You are allowing the true you to awaken. You are permitting heaven's frequency to rise inside your body, your thoughts, your decisions, your atmosphere. And that's why this line terrified the religious powers of Jesus' day. Because he wasn't just revealing God's authority, he was revealing yours. The moment you align with the kingdom within you, become dangerous to every system built on illusion, fear, and control. I've seen this happen in my own life. When I finally stopped waiting for permission to step into who I was, doors opened, relationships shifted, and the world around me began to rearrange itself. Not because God suddenly decided to move, but because I finally aligned with what he had already placed inside me. Chosen one. You've been feeling this too. You've felt the restlessness, the stirring, the dissatisfaction with a life that feels too small for your spirit. You've felt the ache for something real, something holy, something that matches the frequency of your soul. That ache is the kingdom knocking. That restlessness is the kingdom rising. And every time you've ignored it, denied it, or pushed it down because you feared you were imagining things, heaven never stopped calling your name. You were never meant to live asleep. You were never meant to blend into a system that didn't recognize your fire. You were born to bring the kingdom not in some grand, dramatic moment, but in your breath, your choices, your presence, your being. I think about the moments in my life when I tried to dim my own light to make others comfortable, when I tried to silence my calling because it didn't fit the environments I was in. But the kingdom inside me refused to stay quiet. And if you are honest with yourself, you know exactly what that feels like. Because chosen souls are not allowed to shrink. You can try, but everything in your spirit will rebel. You can attempt to hide, but heaven will chase you down. You can try to fit into a life beneath your calling, but the kingdom inside you will always push for more. This is why certain jobs drained you, certain relationships suffocated you, certain environments felt spiritually toxic. Not because you were wrong for them, but because you were too awakened for them. The kingdom is not a location, it is a frequency, a mirror, a truth. When you say "Thy kingdom come," you are agreeing to carry that frequency in your life. You are agreeing to become the landing place where heaven touches earth through your words, your compassion, your discernment, your courage. And this is where some chosen ones hesitate, because the moment the real kingdom begins to rise in you, everything false begins to fall apart around you. Illusions break. Masks crumble, old identities collapse. But chosen one, this is not loss. This is unveiling. This is the moment the hidden crown begins to settle on your spirit. You are not waiting for the kingdom. The kingdom has been waiting for you. It has waited through every season of confusion, every moment of fear, every chapter where you questioned your worth. And yet, here you are, awakening, rising, aligning, feeling the pulse of the divine inside your own chest. When Jesus taught this line, he wasn't giving you a script, he was releasing a code, and that code is alive in you right now. Chosen one. The kingdom is not coming from the sky, it is coming through you. Chosen one. Now that the kingdom has begun to rise within you, Jesus takes you even deeper into the place where divine intention and human alignment meet. The moment he speaks the words, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven," something profound happens. He isn't asking you to bow your head in resignation or surrender your power as if you are a mere spectator in God's story. He is awakening the part of you that was designed to partner with heaven itself. I remember the first time this truth hit me, not as a concept, but as a revelation. I had spent years believing God's will was something that happened to me, something external that I had to endure. But in a quiet moment when I felt completely empty, I sensed a shift. It was as if heaven whispered, "My will is not your limitation. It is your liberation." And chosen one. This is the same awakening you are stepping into right now. The word Jesus used for will didn't just mean command or decree. It meant sacred longing, divine desire, the creative impulse of heaven to express itself through you. That realization changed everything for me. It made me see that God's will isn't meant to crush you, it's meant to unfold through you. It isn't about robbing you of choice, it's about calling your true self forward. And if you've ever felt a longing you couldn't explain, a pull towards something bigger than your current life, a stirring that refuses to leave you alone, that isn't pressure. That's alignment. It's heaven's desire awakening inside you. You've felt it in the dreams that never died, in the convictions that kept returning, in the sense that your life is supposed to mean more than what you've settled for. That's what divine will sounds like when it speaks through the soul of a chosen one. There was a time when I tried to silence that inner calling because it didn't make sense logically. I tried to choose the safe path, the expected path, the path that looked right on paper. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the inner tug, the feeling that my spirit was out of alignment with what I was settling for. I would go to bed, feeling restless, wake up, feeling misplaced, live each day, with the quiet ache of knowing I wasn't living who I was. And chosen one. If you've ever felt that same ache, know this: it wasn't failure. It wasn't confusion, it was heaven refusing to let you shrink. It was the divine will inside you pushing against the walls of your comfort, calling you into the life you were born for. When Jesus says on earth as it is in heaven, he is not speaking about the future. He is speaking about right now, this moment, this breath, this awakening. He is revealing the blueprint. What exists in the unseen must manifest in the seen. What is whole in spirit must become whole in your life. What is aligned in heaven must become aligned in you. That means your healing is not a distant hope. It is an inner truth waiting to express itself outwardly. Your purpose is not a mystery to solve. It is a frequency to step into. Your identity is not something you earn. It is something you remember. I've witnessed this in my own life in ways I didn't expect. There were seasons where I carried peace internally, even when everything around me was falling apart. And somehow that internal peace slowly reshaped my external world. And there were seasons where I carried confusion internally, and no matter how perfect everything looked on the outside, nothing felt right. That is the secret Jesus was pointing to. The inner world leads, the outer world follows. Chosen one. You've experienced this too. You've had moments when something inside you shifted, and suddenly your relationships, your environment, your habits no longer matched your spirit. You didn't grow out of things, your spirit evolved beyond them. Heaven was rearranging your internal world, and the external world had no choice but to respond. This is what it means for God's will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. It means you stop living from reaction and start living from revelation. It means you stop waiting for the world to change and allow God to change you from within first. And when that alignment happens, the right people enter, the right doors open, the wrong cycles break, and the old chains crumble. There is a moment in every chosen one's journey where they realize that the battles they fought were never meant to destroy them. They were meant to strip away the false identities keeping them from their divine assignment. I've looked back at seasons that felt like loss, only to realize later that they were pruning. I've looked at painful endings, only to realize they were divine redirections. I've looked at closed doors and realized they weren't rejection, they were protection. And I know you've had those moments too, where hindsight revealed the hidden hand of heaven, making a way you couldn't see at the time. That is divine will, not domination, but direction, not force, but formation, not punishment, but preparation. Chosen one. This line of the prayer is not asking you to surrender your life. It's inviting you to step into the life that was always yours. The life heaven wrote for you before you were ever wounded, disappointed, or told to dim your fire. The life where your inner world becomes the birthplace of miracles, clarity, alignment, and transformation. The life where the divine will doesn't crush you, it crowns you. And now as you breathe this in, something inside you is aligning. Something inside you is opening. Something inside you is remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Chosen one, now that you understand the alignment of heaven and earth within you, Jesus leads you into a mystery, even deeper one that appears simple on the surface, but holds ancient meaning beneath every syllable. The words, "Give us this day our daily bread," have been repeated countless times, yet almost no one recognizes what they truly awaken. Most were taught that this line is about asking God for physical provision, about survival, about getting through another day. But chosen one. The Holy One, who multiplied loaves, wasn't teaching you to beg for crumbs. He was teaching you how to be nourished in the Spirit, how to receive what your inner being has been starving for, how to awaken a memory of divine sustenance that predates time itself. I remember a season in my life when I felt spiritually empty, even though I was surrounded by abundance. I wasn't lacking food or shelter. I was lacking connection, clarity, and meaning. And no matter how much I tried to fill myself with distraction, ambition, or routine, something inside me stayed hungry. It wasn't until I realized that my spirit needed nourishment just as much as my body that things began to shift. That same hunger is what brought you here, chosen one, even if you didn't have the language for it before now. The Greek word used for daily in this prayer, epiousios, is a mystery in itself. Scholars couldn't find it anywhere else in ancient writings. It doesn't mean daily the way we understand it. It means something like super essential, beyond physical, or of the age to come. That means Jesus wasn't teaching you to ask for worldly provision. He was teaching you to ask for spiritual sustenance that flows from another realm. Something that doesn't come from the marketplace or the world around you, but from the divine presence within you. When I first learned that, it shook me. It made me realize that the hunger I felt in certain seasons wasn't an emotional problem, it was a spiritual calling. I wasn't starving for success, attention, or validation. I was starving for presence, for truth, for remembrance. And if you feel that same hunger, chosen one, it is not a flaw, it is a sign that your spirit is awakening. When Jesus taught this line, he knew exactly what he was referencing. In the ancient temple, there was something called the bread of presence, 12 loaves placed before the face of God, never allowed to grow stale, always renewed, always holy. It wasn't food in the earthly sense. It was a symbol of constant communion, constant connection, constant remembrance that the true nourishment of the soul comes from the presence of God, not from the world. And when I discovered this, pieces of my own life began to make sense. Suddenly I understood why certain environments felt nourishing and others drained me, why certain conversations revived me and others left me empty, why certain relationships aligned with my spirit while others starved it. Some people feed your soul because they awaken what God placed inside you. Others starve your soul because they ask you to forget who you are. Chosen one. Think about the times in your life when you felt truly alive, moments where clarity rushed in, where peace settled over you, where your spirit felt full, even if your circumstances were uncertain. Those moments weren't random. They were glimpses of divine bread, super essential nourishment, reaching your spirit at exactly the right time. And think also of the times when your soul felt starved, when everything looked fine externally, yet inside you felt disconnected, empty, or out of alignment. Those weren't failures, they were signals. Your spirit was telling you it needed something deeper than routine or survival. It needed the bread of presence. I've had moments where I tried to feed myself with the wrong things, approval from others, achievements, distractions, but none of it filled the void. It wasn't until I returned to presence, to silence, to breath, to stillness, that I felt nourished again. And in those moments I realized that divine bread is not something you chase, it's something you remember. It meets you where you are. It rises within you when you make space for it. It awakens when you breathe with intention, when you pause long enough to sense the Holy One whispering to your spirit. And here is the deeper truth Jesus was revealing. You are not only the one who receives the bread, you are being shaped into the bread. When he said, "I am the bread of life," he wasn't just making a statement about himself. He was showing you what it means to live in alignment with the divine. When you remember who you are, when you walk in clarity, when you carry peace, when you embody truth, your very presence becomes nourishment for others. I've seen this happen in quiet ways, when someone simply listens with compassion, when their presence brings comfort without a word, when their spirit radiates peace that others can feel. You've done this too, chosen one, even if you didn't realize it. People have been drawn to your presence, not because of your words, but because of the frequency you carry, because the kingdom within you nourishes souls that are starving. But there is a reason many chosen ones struggle to carry this nourishment consistently. There are spiritual blockages, old wounds, unresolved debts, unhealed places that interrupt the flow of divine bread. There were moments in my own life when I couldn't receive anything from God because I was still holding on to pain, resentment, or shame. And until those places were addressed, no amount of prayer could fill the void. That's why Jesus placed this line right before one of the most powerful spiritual keys in the entire prayer. Chosen one. The hunger you feel is sacred, and the nourishment you seek is already rising within you. Chosen one. Now that you understand the hunger of your spirit and the sacred nourishment heaven has been trying to give you, Jesus takes you into one of the deepest and most misunderstood codes of the entire prayer. He says, "Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." At first glance, it sounds like a simple moral instruction, something we were taught as children. Be nice, forgive people, don't hold grudges. But you and I both know that forgiveness has never felt simple. There are wounds in you that didn't heal overnight, memories that left marks you didn't ask for, betrayals that reshaped the way you breathe. I've walked through those places too. I've carried weights that didn't belong to me, held on to pain because I thought letting go meant pretending it never happened. But forgiveness isn't pretending, it's remembering your freedom. And now, chosen one, it is time to see this line for what it truly is: a spiritual law, a doorway, a release that unlocks the next dimension of who you are. The word debts in the ancient tongue didn't just mean money or mistakes. It meant unfinished energy, unresolved burdens, spiritual weight, open contracts between your soul and the wounds of your past. Some of these debts come from what others did to you, some come from what you've done to yourself, and some, chosen one, come from the stories you've carried for so long that you forgot they weren't even yours to begin with. I remember a season in my own life when I couldn't seem to move forward, no matter how hard I tried. It felt like every step forward dragged chains behind me. I thought I just needed more discipline, more prayer, more effort. But then one day, in a moment of exhaustion, I realized I didn't need more strength, I needed release. There were people I had forgiven in words, but not in spirit. There were pieces of myself I judged harshly, versions of me from past seasons that I blamed for the pain I was still feeling. And until I released them, I was never actually free. You've lived this too. There are moments you replay in your mind, not because you want to, but because they echo inside you. There are faces, voices, decisions, regrets that still hold fragments of you. You've forgiven people, but still feel the weight of their actions. You've moved on physically, but your soul still kneels at the grave sites of old wounds. Some of your deepest exhaustion has nothing to do with your body. It comes from carrying spiritual debts that were never meant to be part of your eternal identity. And this is why Jesus placed this line right after the divine bread. Because nourishment cannot flow through a blocked heart. Presence cannot fill a clenched soul. The kingdom cannot rise in a spirit still chained to the past. Chosen one, forgiveness is not about letting someone off the hook. It's about letting yourself out of prison. It's the moment you stop being the guard over your own suffering. It's the moment you remember that the weight trying to crush you is not proof of your weakness. It's proof of your sensitivity, your depth, your calling. Only those with deep spirits feel deeply. Only those with tender hearts carry heavy things. And only those marked by heaven struggle to release what others forget easily. Your difficulty forgiving is not because you are petty, it is because you feel the spiritual impact of wounds others overlook. But that sensitivity, that deep recognition of spiritual injury, is also the doorway to your greatest strength. Because once a chosen one truly forgives, they don't just heal, they ascend. I've had moments where forgiveness came in layers, like shedding old skin. The first layer released anger. The second released disappointment. The third released the version of myself who survived the pain. And in that final release, something incredible happened. I felt weight lift off my spirit that I didn't even know I was carrying. The world looked brighter, my thoughts clearer, my breath lighter. And it hit me that forgiveness is not something you give to others. It is something you unlock within yourself. It is the key that frees you from the timelines, identities, and emotional loops that once kept you bound. And here is something many never understand. The most important person you will ever forgive is yourself. Chosen one. There are decisions you made when you were hurting that you still punish yourself for. There are moments you didn't know better yet. You judge yourself as if you should have. There are versions of you from the past, confused, afraid, exhausted, that you've abandoned emotionally. But those versions of you didn't fail. They fought. They survived. They kept you alive long enough to reach this moment of awakening. And they too deserve forgiveness. Not just from God, not just from others, but from you. Forgiving yourself is not weakness, it is spiritual maturity. It is accepting the truth that you were growing, learning, evolving, and that everything you went through, even the parts you regret, shaped the spiritual fire burning within you now. When Jesus teaches forgiveness, he isn't teaching moral behavior. He is unveiling spiritual liberation. He is showing you how to remove the final blockages preventing your spirit from rising into full alignment with heaven. Chosen one, your heart has carried enough. The debts you've been holding on to have served their time. The wounds have delivered their lessons. The pain has finished its assignment. You are not meant to stay bound to the shadows of what once happened to you. You are meant to rise, to release, to return to yourself. And as this forgiveness unfolds in you, the next revelation begins to stir. Chosen one. Now that forgiveness has begun loosening the chains around your soul, Jesus leads you into one of the most misunderstood yet spiritually explosive lines of the entire prayer. Lead us not into temptation. For many, this phrase has always sounded like a plea for God to keep them away from sin or weakness, as if the Creator would ever intentionally guide his child toward destruction. But chosen one, what Jesus is revealing here is not fear, it is discernment, it is spiritual awareness. It is the ability to recognize the traps that don't look like traps, the shortcuts that feel like deliverance but are actually detours, the glittering illusions that mimic destiny but lead to spiritual stagnation. I remember the moment this line finally came alive to me. I had always prayed it like a child, afraid of making mistakes, as if temptation meant only simple wrong choices. But when life truly tested me, when doors opened too easily, opportunities offered too quickly, and validation appeared at the perfect time, I realized something profound. Temptation is rarely a shadow. It is often a spotlight. Chosen one. I know you've experienced this too. There were times when something seemed perfect, almost heaven-sent, and yet something in your spirit whispered caution. Maybe it was a relationship that looked nourishing from the outside, but drained you spiritually. Maybe it was a job offer that promised stability but suffocated your calling. Maybe it was a community that applauded you but secretly asked you to shrink. Temptation for a chosen soul does not show up as obvious danger. It shows up as a shortcut. It appears dressed in ease, comfort, or counterfeit alignment. And if you look back over your life, you can probably see moments where you almost took the path that would have cost you your purpose. Moments when you almost settled for the crown without the cross. Moments when shadows tried to convince you that you could step into destiny without dying to what you were never meant to carry. For me, the greatest temptations in my journey didn't come as invitations to sin. They came as invitations to abandon myself. Opportunities that offered quick success, but required me to silence my truth. Relationships that offered companionship, but required me to dim my discernment. Environments that offered acceptance, but required me to hide my anointing. And each time I nearly said yes, something in me, something I now recognize as the voice of the kingdom within, whispered, "This is not your home." That whisper saved my spiritual life more times than I can count. And chosen one, that whisper has been speaking to you too, even when you didn't understand it. Every time you felt uneasy about something that everyone else seemed comfortable with, every time you hesitated without knowing why, every time you felt the need to pull back, even when the situation looked promising, that was divine protection masquerading as doubt. Lead us not into temptation is not a cry of fear. It is a declaration of alignment. It is saying, God, do not let me confuse ego for destiny. Do not let me mistake comfort for calling. Do not let me fall asleep in a place I was meant to pass through. It is the awareness that not every open door is ordained and not every opportunity is an assignment. I've learned that chosen souls attract options, not all of them holy, not all of them purposeful. You attract attention, invitations, pathways, people, because there is something radiant about your spirit. But not everything that recognizes your light is aligned with your future, and that is why discernment becomes your shield. That is why this line of the prayer is so vital. It protects the unfolding of your destiny from the counterfeit versions of it. There is another layer here, one many avoid, because it confronts the truth we try to hide from ourselves. Temptation is not always external. Sometimes the real temptation is internal, a version of you that whispers, take the easy way. A version of you that says, stay small, it's safer, or don't try, you might fail, or don't speak, you'll be misunderstood. Sometimes temptation is the invitation to return to who you were instead of who you're becoming. I've battled that version of myself before, the voice that tried to pull me back into old patterns, old identities, old fears. And every time I resisted, I realized something important. The greatest spiritual tests aren't about behavior, they're about identity. Will you choose the self shaped by your past or the self called by your future? And now, chosen one, look at your own life. Look at the moments you almost settled, the moments you almost dimmed your light, the moments you almost surrendered your calling. You didn't fail those tests, you recognized them. Even if you stumbled, you didn't stay there. You rose, you learned, you awakened. And that is the real victory, because temptation's power isn't in the moment of weakness, it's in the identity it tries to shape afterward. But you refuse to let it define you. You are here now not because you never fell, but because you never surrendered your spirit to the fall. Lead us not into temptation is the chosen soul's prayer for clarity. It is the recognition that you are being molded by fire, refined in spirit, and prepared for something that requires the highest version of you. And as this awareness settles in your spirit, you can feel the next revelation beginning to rise, because Jesus is not done revealing the hidden architecture of your liberation. Chosen one. Now that you've walked through the fire of discernment, Jesus brings you to the final and most misunderstood line of the entire prayer. Deliver us from evil. This is where the depth of the journey reveals itself, because for centuries this phrase has been taught as a plea for protection from monsters in the shadows, from demons with snarling faces, from darkness that lurks outside of you. But chosen one, the true meaning is far more intimate, far more ancient, far more confronting. Jesus isn't pointing to an external enemy, he is pointing to the inner captivity that tries to claim you as its own. And I say this not as a spectator, but as someone who has felt this battle within my own life. The evil Jesus speaks of is not just danger, it is distortion. It is the lie that sneaks into your identity, the wound that overwrote your name, the shadow that was born the day something in you broke, and you thought that brokenness was who you were. I remember wrestling with this myself, believing for years that the pain I carried was part of my personality. I didn't realize it was an intruder, a narrative that attached itself to my spirit, and until I recognized it, I couldn't be free. Chosen. One, think about the oldest wound you carry, the one that shaped how you see yourself, how you love, how you trust, how you breathe. That wound has whispered to you for years. It has tried to convince you that you are unworthy, unlovable, too much, not enough, forever damaged, forever behind. It has spoken in the voices of people long gone, in memories that replay without your permission, in beliefs you never consciously chose. That is the evil. Jesus speaks of the burden that crushes the soul, the spiritual parasite that feeds on unhealed parts of your story. I've seen it in my own life, in ways I didn't immediately recognize. It wasn't always dramatic. Sometimes it was subtle, the hesitation before speaking my truth, the fear of being seen, the instinct to shrink, even when my spirit was begging me to rise. And behind every hesitation was a story I didn't write, a wound that had convinced me it was safer to be small. You've lived this too, chosen one. You've walked through seasons where you felt chained to patterns you didn't want, reactions you didn't recognize, emotions that didn't feel like they belonged to you. You've fought battles that no one saw but God. There were days when your own thoughts felt like enemies, and nights when your inner world felt like a battlefield. But the very fact that you're here proves that the darkness never won. If it had, you wouldn't be reading this. You wouldn't be awakening. You wouldn't be feeling the stirring, the remembering, the holy disruption rising in your spirit right now. Deliver us from evil is not a cry of fear. It is a declaration of identity. It is the soul remembering that it was never meant to live under the authority of trauma, shame, fear, or generational patterns. It is the moment you say, "This wound is not my name. This shadow is not my story. This weight is not my identity." And here's the truth. No one tells you evil doesn't need to possess your body to control your life. It only has to possess your narrative. If it can convince you that you are your wounds, it can keep you from your destiny. If it can convince you that your past determines your worth, it can silence your calling. If it can convince you that your pain was proof of God's abandonment, it can blind you to the divine fire inside you. That's why Jesus ends the prayer here, because liberation is not complete until your identity is reclaimed. I've had moments where this revelation shattered me, moments where I realized that the enemy's greatest attack was not against my circumstances, but against my sense of self. And once I understood that, the battle changed. Because when you reclaim your identity, everything that once held you loses its power. Chosen. One, think about how many times you almost gave up. How many times you almost believed the lie. How many times you almost let the wound define you. But you didn't. You couldn't. Something inside you refused to surrender. Something ancient, something holy, something placed in you before your first breath would not let you forget who you are. That something is your true identity. That something is the divine mark heaven stamped on your spirit. That something is what Jesus is awakening in this final line. Deliver us from evil is the cry of the soul returning to its original self. It is the moment you peel off the false identities crafted by trauma, by disappointment, by the expectations of others. It is the moment you reject the version of you shaped by survival. It is the moment you reclaim the version of you shaped by God. And I know this intimately. There was a day when I finally said out loud, "I reject the version of me built by pain." And I felt something break, something lift, something release. It wasn't dramatic, it was subtle, but it was real, and it changed everything. Chosen one. You have been walking with a weight that heaven never assigned you. You have been fighting shadows that were never stronger than you, only louder. You have been carrying names that were never yours, names given to you by wounds that didn't know the power of the one they were trying to shape. But the moment you declare, "Deliver me from evil," you are doing more than praying. You are renouncing the lie. You are reclaiming the truth. You are stepping back into the identity heaven wrote for you. And now, as this realization settles deep within your spirit, something sacred begins to shift. Something inside you recognizes that this prayer was never just words. It was a map back to your origin, your calling, your fire. You are being delivered not from darkness around you, but from the shadows that tried to hide your own light. Chosen one. Before you move from this moment, let your spirit be still. What you've just walked through was not information, but revelation, not teaching, but remembering. You did not arrive here by accident. You were guided, summoned by the same divine breath that formed you, marked you, and set you apart before your first heartbeat. And now, anointed one, you can feel it, the quiet stirring, the inner confirmation that your hidden identity is awakening. The signs that followed you since childhood, the sensitivity you carried, the restlessness that never made sense, the way your heart trembled at truth long before your mind understood it, all of it has been pointing to this moment. Heaven is unveiling what the world tried to bury. You are not stepping into something new. You are returning to something ancient, something written into your spirit before time called your name. So may this blessing rest on you. Now may clarity rise within you like dawn breaking through old shadows. May courage steady your steps as you walk into the fullness of who you are. May every false name and every wound-born identity fall away from your soul. May the fire of divine purpose ignite in your chest and guide you with holy certainty. And may you move forward, not as someone searching, but as someone commissioned by heaven itself. If this word awakened something in you, mark it in the comments by declaring, "I remember who I am, not for engagement, but as a sacred vow." And if your spirit feels aligned, subscribe not as a follower, but as one choosing to remain connected to the path of awakening unfolding within you. Go in peace, chosen one. Walk in truth. Stay grounded in your calling and rise boldly into the identity heaven has reawakened in you.